Time now for a look through today's world newspapers with Diptyka Laurent. Dipty, hello.
Hi, Nadia.
You're going to be starting us off then with our top story today, those D-Day commemorations which are taking place in Portsmouth in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. And the French papers are also looking ahead to tomorrow's D-Day commemorations. Let's start with Portsmouth News, the local paper there, that says on its front page, the courage of D-Day spans years. The paper's actually interviewed a World War II veteran who played his part in the D-Day landings that, quote, set future generations free. West France, a local paper here in France, says June the 6th, 1944 is a day that changed in which everything changed. Paris Normandie, another local paper, actually pays tribute to a man called Philippe Kiefer. He was the hero of the Free French Forces and led his men personally to battle on Sword Beach during those D-Day landings. And finally, La Presse de la Manche looks at dozens of French families who welcomed U.S. soldiers to their cities yesterday to pay tribute to their ancestors who fought in the D-Day landing. Together, they celebrate peace, the local paper says on its front page.
Certainly very moving front pages there. Deepti, let's change tone then and go to Saudi Arabia. And it's been 2 years since they began that blockade of Qatar.
That's right. That blockade began 2 years ago exactly today. Saudi Arabia, but also the United Arab Emirates, Egypt and Bahrain imposed that blockade on Qatar, accusing it of supporting radical Islamists and being sympathetic to Iran, something that Qatar has always denied. For this London-based pan-Arab paper, however, the embargo has really failed to impact Qatar economically or politically, or even in its preparations for the Football World Cup in 2022. And La Croix, the French Catholic paper, explains how. For instance, Qatar is an arid country of just about 2.6 million people. Prior to June the 5th, 2017, it relied heavily on its neighbors for a product like milk. Since then, it's actually become a milk producer out of necessity. Other unexpected advantages, Qatar has been quote-unquote forced to improve the conditions of its foreign workers who are building those stadiums for the World Cup.
Indeed, Deepti. Let's change tune again then. It is World Environment Day today, and you found a good little story for us about how Swedes are getting proactive about trying to reduce their carbon footprint. How are they doing it?
Well, you can always depend on the Scandinavians to show the way when it comes to social change, can't you? The Guardian looks at this grassroots movement in Sweden that's gaining traction online. It's called flygskam, or flight shame. It's a feeling of being embarrassed or ashamed when you take a plane because of its environmental impact. A movement actually inspired by Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg, who herself has renounced flying as well. A recent report, The Guardian says, found that 30% of Swedes choose to travel by train rather than plane.
I think she's also renounced going to school. She's not going to school for a whole year so that she can focus on climate change. Good stuff. But now let's get some Australian Rugby League news, because they're facing its Colin Kaepernick moment this Wednesday. Tell us a bit more about it.
So this Wednesday, if you're not Australian, you might not know this, but this Wednesday begins the State of Origin Rugby League series. It's a 3-match contest that is one of Australia's biggest annual sporting events. This year, though, several Indigenous players are planning to remain silent during the national anthem. It's kind of being compared, at least by the Telegraph, to NFL player Colin Kaepernick's taking a knee stance to protest the oppression of black people in the U.S. The Australian anthem has long been a point of contention because it appears to brush over Australia's Indigenous history.
Let's stay with sports then and go to British tennis, where the United Kingdom is really putting its hopes on Johanna Konta.
That's right. The Brit is now 2 wins away from possibly becoming the first British champion at the French Open in 43 years. Johanna Konta crushed last year's finalist Sloane Stephens in straight sets in what tennis champion Chris Evert has called one of the best clay court matches ever. Props to the Daily Mirror Sport for finding a fantastic headline today. JK strolling, it says on its front page. Meanwhile, L'Equipe, the French sports paper, is looking at another clash of the Titans. Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer have booked their semi-final together this Friday. It's their first meeting at Roland Garros in 8 years. In their 5 previous matches, Rafa has always come out on top. The French sports paper predicting a clash of the tennis gods or a Friday of good saints.
Yeah, no. Lastly, more sports news for you. It is the Women's World Cup kicking off here in Paris this Friday, and you found a piece for us about how Bob Marley's daughter actually helped the Jamaican team to qualify. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, Nadia, and it's really well worth. It's a bit of a long read on ESPN, but it's really great. The Reggae Girls, that's a nickname of the Jamaican football team. Their journey to the World Cup is fascinating, not unlike that of the Jamaican bobsled team that inspired the film Cool Runnings. 5 years ago, the Jamaican women's football team didn't even have rankings because they didn't exist. In 2016, the Jamaican Federation disbanded the team altogether, and then Bob Marley, the daughter of Bob Marley, she stepped in, personally funded their campaign. She raised awareness, she drummed up support. She also had to fight Jamaica's entrenched perceptions around gender inequality and suffered through some nail-biting matches. The result, though, is that the Jamaican women's team are playing their first match this Sunday in the World Cup against Brazil's Samba Queens. You can read all about their fascinating journey in ESPN's article. Just to quote Bob Marley, who quotes her father, "Football is freedom."
And I will be watching some of the Women's World Cup myself. I'm very excited about it. Sadly, it won't be Jamaica, but thank you very much indeed, Deepti. Deeptika Laurent there with our press review on the programme today. And if you'd like more from Deepti and her team, you can, as always, head to our website, france24.com, and check out more of our press reviews there.